The Starr and D'Amico Show is brought to you by cheapesttshirts.ca. If you're looking for quality gear without overpaying, shop cheapesttshirts.ca. Huge selection for men, women, and kids. Tees, hoodies, headwear, bags, and more. Proud Montreal business. Order today, ship today, delivery tomorrow. That's cheapesttshirts.ca. Local, fast, and affordable. Brought to you by instacustoms.com. Do you need custom gear from a local Montreal business? Instacustoms.com has you covered. Custom shirts, hoodies, hats, and more made your way. Fast turnaround, great quality, and proudly Montreal-based. Check out instacustoms.com. Brought to you by Cabletel. For trusted alarm systems in Quebec and Eastern Ontario, choose Cabletel. Over 20 years of expert installation and top-tier protection for homes and businesses. Check out Cabletel.com. Email them info@Cabletel.com. It's Cabletel. Peace of mind you can count on. Brought to you by Morella's Steakhouse. Looking for an unforgettable night out? Morella's Steakhouse on Highway 132. It's just 15 minutes from Montreal, serving up premium cuts and bold flavors, and no tax on your bill. Book your table tonight at morellassteakhouse.ca. Taste excellence tonight. Brought to you by Little Bear. Give your pet the best with Little Bear Pet Supply. It's a proudly family-owned business here in Montreal for over 30 years. Chuck, Evie, and their all-star staff have you taken care of with all the top brands at the best prices, and they really care for your pets. Shop online at littlebearonline.com or visit them on St. Catherine across from Westmount Square. It's Little Bear Pet Supply. Brought to you by McLean's Pub. Head over to McLean's Pub, 1210 Peel Street in the heart of downtown Montreal. Great food, cold drinks, and big games on all the screens. McLean's Pub, good times and great company. Well, welcome to the tail end of NHL Trade Deadline and live coverage as it happens. Are the Montreal Canadiens going to make a move? Lots of speculation. Marco, first of all, good afternoon, and let's dive right into it. The latest around the Montreal Canadiens, the speculation around the Canadiens and Nazem Kadri. The fourth period, talking about Sam Montembeault perhaps in play. Let's talk about that. What else is going on? What are you hearing, if anything, here?
Yeah, I mean, I heard the same thing as David in regards to the Canadiens circling back on Nazem Kadri. I think it makes sense considering the ridiculousness of the prices for Robert Thomas. Right now, what we're kind of hearing is, the Calgary Flames don't want to retain as of this moment. We'll see if they get cold feet or if they balk between now and 3 p.m. But ownership in Calgary does not want to retain at this stage on Nazem Kadri for the 3 years remaining. And for those that are upset, ladies and gentlemen, who do you think's more upset? Nazem Kadri is the most upset in this, because bear in mind, he thought he was going to Colorado yesterday.
Yeah.
And it was nixed that they were not going to be retaining on him. So, the Colorado Avalanche had to turn around and pivoted towards Nicolas Roy and went and traded a first-round pick for him. That first-round pick was destined for Calgary for Nazem Kadri. So, of course, the Canadiens tried to come back in and do what they could there. But if you're the Montreal Canadiens, I'm sorry, you're not going to throw your entire salary cap structure out of the way to go and get Nazem Kadri. It's not the Canadiens' way. They're not going to do that. And I understand it. $7 million is going to be very difficult to digest as a third-line center, because although Nazem Kadri is a second-line center today, he will eventually become a third-line center as he ages. And you just don't want to have that kind of anchor on your salary cap structure, the same way that right now the Canadiens are kind of hampered by the $12 million that they have on their fourth line in the form of Josh Anderson and Brendan Gallagher.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. There's the latest around the Montreal Canadiens. Obviously, Marco D'Amico has his finger on the pulse. As soon as something breaks, at least hopefully we'll be here. We're going to go for an hour. And, as we know, the queue generally jams up. So don't be surprised to see a trade or two, maybe more, Marco, kind of sprinkle after the 3 p.m. Deadline. But, to recap, before we dive into some of the bigger deals, with one kind of breaking just before we went live here on Starr and D'Amico, Braden Shen is now a member of the New York Islanders. I want to pick your brain on some of the bigger moves.
You want to know what's really funny about the Braden Shen thing?
Yeah.
Who do the Blues play next?
Well, okay. Asked and answered, right?
They're in the same hotel as we speak right now.
Easy
Are the
easy
Blues
trade
and the
then.
Islanders.
Easy
He just
trade.
has to walk to a different floor. It's
Yeah.
incredible.
You know,
But worth noting this
yeah,
time
yeah,
that Braden Shen waived his clause to go
yeah.
to the island. You know, a first, a third. I'm still waiting on the prospect. I'm being told it's not Kashawn Aitchison, which is a player that the Blues significantly coveted. But you know, I'm still working to get it. For those that generally are unhappy about the way that my I look at my phone and the screen, unfortunately, you're gonna have to make do today because I'm getting a lot
Indeed.
of stuff at the same time.
Indeed. We got lots to get to today. And before we dive in a little bit further, reminder, Marco and I are going to be live from Morella Steakhouse coming up next Thursday on the 12th. And if you're in the area, we'd love to see you. And we're also going to be announcing our VIP winner. We've been running this contest for a few weeks. We're giving you and a friend 2 tickets to see the Habs and the Bruins with luxury round trip transportation to and from the game, and $200 to spend and eat at the best steakhouse at Morella's, Highway 132. It's 15 minutes from Montreal. Go to their Instagram page and you still have time to enter. Let's continue on the Montreal Canadiens for a second, partner. You know, we've been talking about Patrik Laine for a while. TSN Hockey Insider Darren Dreger mentioned if Laine does get moved, it would kind of be late in the afternoon. Well, here we are now at 2:36 on Friday, NHL trade
This is the
deadline.
timeline.
So what are we thinking? I mean, are the Philadelphia Flyers poking around? As we go back to the Kadri speculation, there were some whispers that maybe Laine and Calgary. I mean, what do you think about the fit and how likely Patrik Laine gets moved before the deadline expires?
I think it's going to happen. I think the prices on other players are so high, we may see a Patrik Laine trade at 259. It's as simple as that. I know it's not sexy. I know Canadiens fans are looking around being like, oh, why didn't they go and get Braden Shen? Braden Shen is not there anymore. He's not the Braden Shen of the past. You know, he's being well outplayed on the stat sheet by Oliver Kapanen as we speak. So I get what he would bring, and I understand the gift that Matsudash is trying to give the New York Islanders. They're playing well above the expectations, and they deserve a little bit of a boost. And he's there for next year. I get all that, absolutely. I don't think the Canadiens are near that, because you have to keep in mind Bo Horvat is getting to a certain age. Even Matt Barzal is 28, or is going to be 28. Like, their core is so much older outside of Schaefer than the Canadiens. So I understand there's a little bit more urgency there from Matthew Darche, but I don't look around and say the Canadiens should have done this or the Canadiens could have gone there. All I got to say is that there's more right now on the table than a lot of people are willing to or are ready to understand. There's a lot happening right now in the last 30 minutes. My phone is essentially blowing up left and right. It's not necessarily just the Canadiens, but I mean, the Canadiens it's very straightforward. The Canadiens had interest in multiple players on the Calgary Flames. It wasn't just Calgary, it was also Zach Whitecloud. They were looking for that kind of, depth right shot defenseman. We'll still see. There's still time. I've put the name out of Trevor Van Riemsdyk in the past as like a cheap last second ad. Nick Perbix is a player that I brought up as well. So we'll see. We'll definitely see how it goes. And if they really want to improve at center and they want to make like a quick late addition, I do like the name of Eric Holla. He's a player that I've liked before. I don't see that the reasoning behind the Canadiens going absolutely balls to the wall. I get people are, anxious because of how close everything is in the standings. But ladies and gentlemen, this team got themselves to second in the Atlantic before the Olympic break. They can get themselves back.
For those that are with us and perhaps new to the channel, this is daily Habs coverage here. And please like and subscribe to the channel as we continue to grow, thanks to your ongoing loyalty and support for the Starr and D'Amico show. We appreciate all of you, and we love to see all the comments coming in. So smash that like button, and if you like what you see, stay with us and hit that subscribe button for daily content around the Montreal Canadiens as Marco continues to work the phones as we get closer to the 3 p.m. trade deadline. I want to keep it on the Montreal Canadiens before we kind of move around a little bit here. We talked about Patrick Laine. We talked about the speculation that maybe the Habs and Calgary Flames are getting together, whether Craig Conroy can bend to the point where he's willing to retain on Kadri's salary. For those that have been with us for a minute, I'm in on the Nazem Kadri. I think I can make a compelling argument for why I think that makes sense. I think you can get 2 really good years out of Nazem Kadri, and then we'll see with the full understanding that the cap is going up. But there's also next year will be contract years for Brendan Gallagher and Josh Anderson. So let's start about what you think about Nazem Kadri and his value in a world where the Canadiens are able to acquire him in a deal that makes sense for both parties.
I'm always of this mind. Everyone's worried about that 3rd year of his contract, right?
Yes.
What's the salary cap going to be in 3 years from now? The salary cap next year is going to be at about 114 million. Or sorry, whoa, I got ahead of myself, guys. I apologize. It's going to be about 104, 105 million.
Yeah.
The year after that is going to be 113 million. And the year after that, the projection is around 120, from what I'm being told. So Nazem Kadri's contract will account for less than about 5% of the salary cap, just above. In the last year, the Canadiens could easily retain 50% and trade him if need be, right? Like, that's the way I see it. But unless, like, if they do acquire Kadri and they do decide to do that in the next little bit, then it better to get him at his full cap. The price would have to be lower. Would have to be far lower than what we just saw happen with a guy like Braden Shen. And I think it's a weird position to be in if you're Craig Conroy, and this is what I'm being told. He's basically between a rock and a hard place because Kadri's camp is pissed that basically the basis of 2 deals have been shot down here. And on the other end, ownership doesn't want to retain on that contract, even though they've retained on Jacob Markstrom. And that looked out really good for Calgary, right? Remember, they got Kevin Ball, who's their number 1 left shot defenseman right now, and a 1st-round pick that became Cole Rezhny, and he's doing quite well in the NCAA. So I don't see what's coming. Maybe they were holding on to that retention slot potentially to move Blake Coleman, who's also in play. I understand that. I'd like to see how things are going to move, but the fact that they're unwilling, I felt like, given the market, it's a missed opportunity from ownership to not want to retain on Nazem Kadri to get maximum value. Because if you do this right and the way that the Flames are drafting, I think that they can turn around real quick with those extra assets.
I understand, and I see the comments, and I get the narrative around Kadri, his age, and the years left on his deal. I get all of that. The strongest, to me, Marco, counter argument to getting a player like Nazem Kadri is the Canadiens are good on offense. They're good for goals. Obviously, maybe they need more jam, a little bit more intensity from some of their forwards, but isn't goal prevention and trying to help out in that department, should that not be the priority, knowing that the Canadiens have allowed 200 goals against? Only Florida and Toronto have allowed more in the Eastern Conference. Marco, they're also the 27th ranked penalty killing unit. Should that not be the priority if management is going to make a move before the deadline?
Yes and no. I think the issue is team defense. It's systems. It's being aggressive in terms of what they're doing. I like it in the sense that I do believe that they need an upgrade on defense. Whether or not that comes internally or not is a completely different story. But I agree with you. Their systems need overhaul. They absolutely need to change that. Everyone's looking for that change to come from the outside. But again, we've seen the Canadiens play strong defense. It's the consistency in which they do it that's problematic for me. And I think, right now, watching the way that things are going, I think you guys are talking about the Canadiens not doing anything. Imagine New York Rangers fans right now.
Yeah.
Like, it's just periphery trades. Vinny Trocheck has not moved. Cooley is not moving at all. But Vinny Trocheck hasn't moved. Schneider hasn't moved. Lafreniere is not moving now. But again, you got to feel like that's a team that's rebuilding, and all these big names have not dropped.
Yeah.
So there's a lot being held up here. It's not simply just Kent Hughes, and you're seeing a lot of other teams that are perhaps in a more desperate situation, push ahead here. So, I'd like to see what happens. I would tell you to keep an eye on Detroit. I feel like Detroit still has a push late here for a right shot defenseman. So I think that would be a way to go.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of the Canadiens, like I said, it's very difficult to predict because right now they're poking on about everything, but nothing concrete is coming back because everybody is basically waiting it out to the last moment for a price to drop. That's basically what I'm seeing right now is just price too high, price too high, price too high, price too high. And it's not just the Canadiens, it's basically all around the league. You look at as much as I enjoy Corey Perry, you look at Corey Perry with a no trade clause, a full clause, netting a second round pick for the LA Kings. Like that's a tough sell for me. Like the market is high. And as much as you all want to see a trade, you may not want to see a trade that you see this team overpay for, because as much as everybody likes Whitecloud, are you ready to give a first round pick for Zach Whitecloud?
No,
I would be shocked if many of you said yes.
But let's load up the super chats here. We'll put some of the best ones on the screen. As always, I remind you to like and subscribe for daily Habs content. There's Marco D'Amico. I'm Shaun Starr. Thanks so much for being with us. Good to see familiar faces and familiar names. Nice to see some new names too in the chat. Weigh in with how do you feel? When we get to the comment section, it's we're inside 15 minutes from the deadline expiring. How would you feel if the Canadiens did nothing? If they go into Anaheim at 9:00 tonight with the same roster, with the same team that we've been covering and watching and hoping that this team makes the playoffs. Columbus won a big game. The Boston Bruins thankfully lost a game, but Columbus is 14-1-2 in their last 17 games. So they're clearly on the come up, and the Canadiens are in wild card 1. So load us up in the chat. How you feeling about this? But Marco, I think, how would you describe the overall trade deadline day? I get the sense that this is one of the more lackluster, least entertaining trade deadlines that we've seen in recent memory. How are you feeling so far about how things have evolved today?
I don't know about that. I think everybody kind of forgets how boring last year's trade deadline was. I do, because I was sitting inside talking to Shaun when I was in the Cayman Islands next to a beach and nothing was happening. Last year was way more. We've seen the most amount of hockey trades for a trade deadline that I've ever seen. The problem with this year's trade deadline is simply that there are no rentals. So it's all hockey trades. And hockey trades are expensive. Hockey trades require the right timing. We saw with Noah Dobson. And I feel like if you felt like the Canadiens were supposed to overpay now, you've not been paying attention to this team. They'd like to, absolutely. They tried on Kadri today, but they're not going to do it for whatever. The impulsivity to do something, buyers' desire to do that. Y'all may have that in the comments section, and I respect that. That's totally fine. But you can't be that impulsive as a general manager, and that I completely understand. That being said, do I think that they kick the can down the line? Absolutely. I think this summer they'll be looking into adding right now, but I just don't feel like they're in a rush to overdo this.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen many of the Canadiens' rivals in their divisions overdo it. And a first-round pick, I keep seeing the same dude just freaking out over Whitecloud here. This guy, buddy, he's a third pair D on a competitive team. You give a first-round pick for that kind of guy when you're contending.
Agreed.
Not when you're like your window is about to open.
Yeah. I mean, he's playing 23 minutes with a Calgary team right now, but I completely agree with Marco in the sense
was like
that
saying
the Canadiens, he's defenseman number 5.
Exactly. And it's the same point as making, for example, Ben Sherratt was the Canadiens' number 1 defenseman at the moment of his trade.
That's right.
Okay. Yeah. But he's right off the bat, like he's second best right shot defenseman. That's not saying much.
Right.
You don't give a first round pick because you lack depth in that position when you're a young team on the up and up. Yeah. Look at what Detroit's about to pay right now for Justin Falk. And I think people kind of, people will kind of be like, okay, well, if Justin Falk gets that, like, I'm a little concerned. So that's the reason why I invite people to caution, because even Rasmus Ristolainen is likely not moving right now.
No, I mean, the ask again, the speculative ask is, they want a prospect, they want a first-round pick in exchange for Rasmus Ristolainen.
Yep. First and a prospect for Rasmus Ristolainen is with the way that he's played.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
But it's funny.
That's a lot.
I'm glad. I think we read the market quite well in the week leading up to today, ultimately, in terms of what it was with the debate going on, buyers and sellers. The super chats are coming in left and right. Thank you, everybody. Let's get to this one. This is a good question. If Patrick Laine doesn't get moved in the next 10 minutes, or if the queue is jammed up at the NHL front office and they're waiting to, and it happens every year, trades kind of get finalized, in the minutes after 3 p.m. But I like this question, Marco. What happens to Patrick Laine if he doesn't get traded today, Marco?
That is a PR situation the Canadiens will back themselves into. But I will say this. I didn't think that the Canadiens would be able to drag on Patrick Laine's IR up until this point.
Yes.
As of this morning, there is no longer a 23-man roster limit. So he could theoretically still stick around and play and be healthy. But it's not like before where if you activated him, it forced the Canadiens to waive a player. I still believe he'll be traded in the next 15 to 20 minutes, though. And
yeah.
Go ahead.
No, just finish your thought before I move on.
Yeah, and the only thing is I still expect Laine and Trocheck as well to be traded. I'm right now I'm being sent a couple of messages, but
Colorado?
Keep an eye out on Laine and Trocheck.
Colorado, Vincent Trocheck hooking up after, Craig Conroy, screwing things up, not retaining on salary. I mean, they did. Let's be honest. I mean, Colorado didn't make the move of Girard to Pittsburgh for Kulak to free up money in order to get Nicolas Roy, right? I mean, I'm sure they had their eyes on a larger prize, and that maybe was Kadri. But considering the stubbornness there, is Vincent Trocheck the next option for the Avalanche?
They don't have the assets. Do the Avalanche? If Vincent Trocheck was the play, then they weren't trading a first-round pick for Nicolas. They would have waited.
Right.
I think that if they do make a trade, it'll probably be more Bobby McMahon than a center.
Okay.
If you were looking for a center, I would tell you to keep an eye out for Carolina. Keep an eye out on those teams. One of the things I got to tell you is you got to keep an eye out. I don't think it's done with Calgary. I don't think it's done. But it's done. It's done. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think if right now with the Canadiens are still on the whole Kadri thing. They're still trying to get it over the finish line, is what I'm being told.
Can we talk about that, Len? I want to get to this one from Jason as the super chats are coming in. We're going to put the best ones on the board about to my point about defense, right? About Florida and Toronto, the only teams in the East that have allowed more goals, 27th PK. As Jason wonders, wasn't the defense supposed to be solid this year? It's a good question. It was supposed to be solid. They thought speed was going to be the weapon, right? But Marco, does it still fall back onto systems and total team defense as opposed to looking at the complexion, I guess, of the Habs' top four? What is it?
I think the Canadiens are fine in their top four. It's like, but their top three, I think it's 4, 5, 6. But I think a lot of it mostly has to do with just who they have there.
Yeah.
And the way that they play and how they play and what they're trying to do. To me, it's part of it is maybe they don't have the most what's the word I'm looking for here? Maybe they don't have the most
edge
optimal bottom pair.
Okay.
Right? But your bottom pair plays 10 minutes, not the reason why you lose games. All right. The penalty kill is off. To me, it's a strategy issue. It's a complete strategy issue. And again, I'm not an NHL coach, so I'm not going to be arrogant and try to say that I know better than Martin St. Louis, who has a Hall of Fame career, and Stéphane Robida, who's played, over a decade in the NHL. Like I'm not going to, but I just don't feel like in today's NHL, you can play a man-to-man game. And if you do, you have the wrong elements to do so. That's the way I see it. So I expect the Canadiens to continue to be on it.
Yeah.
And maybe try to make a last play, but I am not sure that the market right now is what it would be or what it would need to be for that. Right. I think you can do your best shopping in the summer because right now other teams have urgency and I don't think the Canadiens have as much urgency as maybe some of the folks in this chat or as some of their rivals in the Eastern Conference.
Let me do a quick reset here. We're 5 minutes away from the 3:00 deadline. The latest around the Montreal Canadiens before we hit the air live on Starr and D'Amico was the Calgary Flames and Montreal Canadiens are maybe trying to get something over the finish line as it relates to Nazem Kadri. Also speculation around the Montreal Canadiens having Sam Montembeault in the market. Interesting to note that Jakub Dobeš scheduled to play the LA Kings tomorrow at 7. Sam Montembeault is scheduled to get the start at 9:00 in Southern California. And so you would think that if Sam Montembeault, I personally don't think it's going to happen. I don't think he's in play, but I could be wrong. I've been wrong before.
Montembeault in play?
Yeah.
Montembeault is 100% out there today. But
I mean, it does.
Again, you have to understand, it's a non-existent goalie market.
I understand, but what's the other name? Wallsted's out there. He's in the mix. I mean, Bobrovsky makes the most sense because he's on a contract here. Wallsted doesn't make sense because you've got Jacob Fowler. And what if they move Sam Montembeault today? It's just going to be Jakub Dobeš. And then what if he gets hurt? Mark Denis comes into play. I mean, the timing of it.
Mark Denis is a legend, so I would be okay with that.
And
but I would say that any Montembeault trade out would require a goaltender coming back.
100%.
There is none of that. I wouldn't.
Bobrovsky to me makes the most sense if that world exists. But I over Jordan Binnington all day, every day. Personally,
I mean, I think the player, yes, but the fit. I personally don't see him getting dealt. I don't see Binnington getting. I don't see. I don't see there being dealt, but I still believe that as of right now, teams are trying to get it. They're on the phone right now, from what I'm being told. Like, teams are on the phone. I know the Canadiens are on the phone as we speak, but they're trying to get deals done. As of right now, again, as I continue to tell you, it's just too tight. And I would be lying to you, and I refuse to lie to you if I said that there was anything coming down the pipe. But I wouldn't be surprised if a Patrick Laine trade is happening.
From Deborah here, circling back. What about Kirby Dach and Arbor Jacki for a White Cloud and Blake Coleman as we move around the Calgary Flames here? I mean, the Blake Coleman situation is. I mean, we've been talking about him for a minute here.
Mm-hmm. I think that it's possible that kind of a trade makes sense, but I just don't see it happening. I don't see it happening for this. Arbor Jacki, again, you're not going to throw him away. And I don't think that Blake Coleman wants to go to a team like the Canadiens. He has a lot of trade protection. So I wouldn't see that happening either. I think if you're going to look at a trade like this, you have to think player that doesn't have trade protection or a player whose trade protection would be in favor of the Montreal Canadiens, because I don't see them going the opposite way.
You think Arbor Jacki is another name that we speculated on a video this week that the Canadiens,
they're not going to just get rid of him. They're not just going to get rid of an Arbor Jacki.
No, I mean, we can't put him in that category. Like we think, Patrick Laine, if they can just remove the body and retain the salary and free up the money. I mean, that's a totally different conversation. I think that's fair to put it that way. Yeah,
completely different conversation, and it muddies up the entire thing. So I think if you look at where the market is right now, there's a couple of players that should be traded between, where the trade should come out in the next 15 to 20 minutes. I think Trocheck gets traded. I think Justin Fox gets traded.
Yeah.
And I'd be interested to see if there is some kind of swap for Patrick Laine and another player. I think that's kind of what we're looking at right now. That would interest the folks in this chat, because there's a lot on the burner. There are a lot of calls. One of my buddies said the registrar's office at the NHL has 15 calls pending. So we'll see how that all shakes down.
Yeah. So don't, let's just wait a minute here. We're getting close to 3:00. It's 2:59. So a minute to go before the deadline officially expires. But I'm going to remind everybody again, generally that queue, as Marco just outlined, kind of gets jammed up a little bit, and trades generally annually kind of, trickle in right after 3:00. What about kind of the rule changes in terms of double retention? We've talked about that before. Do you think that kind of handcuffed maneuverability, so to speak?
No, because there were so few rentals available, right? You got to think about it. double retention only really applies to rentals. It's you retain 50%, you trade 50%. And you would get a player at 75%. It's not a question on whether or not teams had cap space. Teams actually did have cap space this year. But the issue that comes from this is more availability. And I think that was the issue this year, is that there was not a strong like contingent of, what's the word here? There wasn't a strong contingent of rentals. And so because there were few rentals, there were fewer like quick trades or retention trades or this or that, because retaining on a contract with term, as we see with the Calgary Flames, not exactly that easy. Not exactly that easy. So I'll be interested to see the deals that come down the pipe as we discuss this. You know, for example, Bobrovsky is not moving.
No.
As I told you, they're going to try to re-sign Bobrovsky. So I don't think that that's happening, though. Famous last words, because as we remember, Frank Saravalli yesterday said that Corey Perry wasn't moving, and he is now a member of the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Yeah, and we thought Colton Parayko was going to be a Buffalo Sabre, and then
that trade was actually accepted. That's just the player that didn't want to waive.
Let me ask you that.
It's a different story.
Let me ask you something, brother. As someone that has broken stories at the NHL level more than once, how do you feel about insiders breaking trades without the player basically exercising their contractual right and saying yes or no to a trade, but nevertheless the information comes out? How do you feel about that as someone that's in the breaking news business?
As much as you want to be the first one to put it out there, if I know that a player has a no trade, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it unless I know for sure that they've accepted the trade. Because you got to think about it. When you put that out, when you get that kind of information, that information is generally put out so that you could put pressure on the player for them to waive.
Right.
Right. Because there's so much pressure. There's a fan reaction. There's all the media attention to it. It's all out there. And it's like everyone's basically holding a mic to your face being like, what are you going to say? What are you going to say? Right. So I just, I don't know. I don't like it. Justin Falk to Detroit looks like it will be happening, by the way. Interested to see what that return looks like.
Yeah, me too.
So I expect at least a first round pick on that one and a prospect, but to me, it will be very indicative of what that market looked like. I'm still of the mind that we may see a last minute Patrick Laine trade here. Just to keep an eye out on that, just because I was told that there was a couple of teams that circled back right at the end. But interested to see if there's anything else that ends up coming. There should be I keep being told there's over a dozen trades or a dozen calls in the registrar. So we'll see how things come down.
I mean, I got Hank over here. He's like, what the,
Hank is the true MVP of the trade deadline. I'll tell you
what's going on. He's ready and he's out. He's like, okay, it's 3:03. Patrick Laine's still a Canadian. Nazem Kadri isn't. Nor is, and it looks like,
Bobby McMahon to Seattle.
Boom. So we're waiting to see what Toronto was going to do.
Because that's exactly what they needed in Seattle. Another winger.
Yeah. But at least the Leafs get a first round, in the deal. They get Colorado's protected first round pick in the Waugh deal yesterday. So at least they're getting something. But when we go back, look like the Justin Falk to Detroit thing is happening. There was a lot of pressure on Steve Yzerman, wasn't there, to capitalize on the season his team is having?
Yeah, I would have to agree. And I mean, if you have to also appease your core, right? And I find that really interesting. So one thing I found really interesting leading up to today, all eyes were on Minnesota for Vinny Trocheck. And they did not get Vinny Trocheck.
Yeah.
Can't confirm they're done for the day. That's crazy to me that you throw all those assets to go and get a guy like Quinn Hughes. You add all those other, smaller pieces like getting Foligno, but you don't go and improve the biggest organizational weakness. You talk about, a weird trade deadline. It was a really weird trade deadline for the Minnesota Wild.
Yeah, I mean, their big move obviously was getting Hughes out of Vancouver. The Foligno brothers are reunited. I mean, they're kind of making a run here. What do you make of how they've kind of built up their roster to contend with the big clubs in the Western Conference, particularly Dallas and Colorado. In your eyes, have they done enough?
Not really, but all those teams have holes right now, right? I feel like Dallas is probably the team that's best equipped, but it all comes down to good goaltending and timely games, right? That's the playoffs. They're a tight team, but I feel like Dallas right now has the edge based on their additions, based on the depth that they already had. I think they do have the edge there. It'll be interesting to see again as things kind of trickle in here.
A first and a third from Detroit for Justin Falk is what's being reported from Darren Dreger now.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's a first and a third is the theme of the St. Louis Blues, because that's exactly what they got in the trade for Braden Shen.
Yeah,
along with the prospect. So good on the Blues for getting multiple firsts for those players. I could tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that those prices were far higher than what they were now. They were asking for a first and a second and a prospect for both of those guys. They wanted Justin Falk return. The Justin Falk, they wanted the same return that Rasmus Anderson netted, the Calgary Flames. So that was a first, a second, White Cloud, and a prospect. So it is interesting to me how these deals are kind of coming in at the very end here. Still some trade calls to come, but the prices, again, absolutely insane. The only one that's kind of surprising to me is Bobby McMahon. A second and a fourth is a pretty good price for a player like him. So happy to see that was the end game for them.
When it comes to the Canadiens, again, here we are 6 minutes after the trade deadline. Marco telling us that there's a double-digit queue at the NHL head office as they finalize these deals. As teams try to get this done right before the 3 p.m. Deadline hour. I wonder about, Marco, the competitive balance in the Atlantic and the Eastern Conference. We've seen what the Buffalo Sabres have done. And now the Detroit Red Wings land Justin Falk again for a first and a third. How do you think Hab fans, how do you think they should be feeling watching the teams around them kind of make a strong attempt to improve their depth and their competitive balance? I mean, should Hab fans be slightly concerned that there's a chance their team may miss the playoffs?
Interesting. Ryan Strome to the Calgary Flames.
Whoa. Where'd that come from?
Interesting.
Yeah. What goes through your mind when you say interesting?
Why would you go and get Ryan Strome?
Yeah.
Interesting. I'm telling you, until someone tells me that the Canadiens are done, I'm still interested in that combination with the Calgary Flames. I'm still interested, but not something that's guaranteed, of course. But Ryan Strome to Anaheim is not something I saw coming, because Ryan Strome's still an NHL center, still a player that can play. What is he being brought in for?
So
and I think that's interesting to me.
Bye Nazem Kadri?
I can't confirm or deny. I do not have information on that. But when you get a player like him, what does that entail? Is it now? Is it later? Is it down the line? I don't know. But I have to see the return on this, because definitely did not see the Calgary Flames being buyers in this situation, especially with the season that they've had.
I mean, you look at like Chicago's making a run for the bottom. Like teams are trying to catch up to the Vancouver
St.
Canucks.
Louis.
And yeah, exactly. In the tank battle. But if we focus on Nazem Kadri again, and as always, thanks for being with us on this trade deadline.
Starr, you guys are awesome. Thank you so much.
With a special live show on this Friday, as we try and do our best to keep up with the news and relay all the information at our disposal. Like and subscribe to the channel. We love you for doing that. What's it going to take for Nazem Kadri to leave Calgary? What's your best guess on what they're looking for, with the prices being what they are and teams some people are paying here?
Yeah.
I mean, first rounder?
Ducks trade Ryan Strome to Calgary for a 7th round pick in 2027. So it's a cap dump. That's very interesting to me.
Yeah.
And I don't quite understand it in the sense of what is Anaheim adding that they needed to dump that contract that way. But when it comes to Kadri, I mean, what would they expect? A first round pick, a good prospect.
Yeah.
1 year left on his deal. Like, if 1 year left on his deal and was struggling this year, and $5 million, all it cost was Calgary paying a 7th round pick, I would be. I don't understand how Patrick Laine isn't one of the trades that's in the queue right now. That's the way I see it.
Yeah, Hab fans not pleased. 10 minutes after the deadline. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, don't you? I mean, I gotta believe for the majority of Hab fans, when you see the prices that are being paid for certain players, and Marco made the point earlier,
they don't care, man. They like complaining
after.
They love complaining after the fact, but they just love the adrenaline rush of seeing a trade. I don't blame them.
Of course, but you don't want to be giving up first-rounders and high-end prospects here. Come on, guys. Let's be honest.
Exactly. Everybody will love making the big move at deadline. Everybody will love it, but then they'll regret it when they see that the player or the pick is doing much better.
Yeah.
While Vincent Trocheck not moved. That's wild, considering all the lead up to the trade deadline on Chris Drury. Again, I have no idea what Chris Drury is doing in New York, but that is pretty interesting to me that even Trocheck doesn't move.
Wow.
I don't understand. I really, really don't understand. They stuck to their price and no one wanted to pay for it.
No.
AJ Greer, no one wanted to pay for it. Robert Thomas, no one wanted to pay that price. That price was silly.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, as I reported, 3 to 4 premium pieces in a deal for Robert Thomas. And I didn't see that at all.
I'll
tell you, if I were Robert Jeff Gordon,
man, I'd be pissed off at the St. Louis Blues for all this speculation and everything else, man. You know what, man? I'm not in the business. I would not be happy if I were Robert Thomas and how this whole saga went down for this 26-year-old assistant captain within that organization. And the fact that he's got the no trade, and if they want to circle back on this in the summertime, I think he has every right to not be in the mood to do them any favors if a team that he really doesn't have a strong appetite for decides to come to terms on a deal. They gave him that clause in his contract. He has every right to exercise it, as far as I'm concerned. What'd you make of the swirling winds around Robert Thomas? What's your take on that?
I think the Blues shot themselves in the foot, because based on my information, there could be better players available this summer and they won't have the biggest fish in the pond.
Right.
And I don't think that if they try to trade Robert Thomas, that they're going to have, I don't think they're going to get what they want.
Yeah.
Teams were desperate now. I don't know that, you're going to get that then. From what I said, from what I'm being told, there could be better forwards available. Jason Robertson is potentially going to be available this summer. There has been discussion about the potential availability of Nico Hischier. I know teams have checked in on that because he's got 1 year left in New Jersey and doesn't look like New Jersey is going anywhere. So a guy to keep an eye on. There's going to be a few.
Yeah.
There's going to be a few. And that's why a lot of teams were in gung-ho to just empty themselves and see what's going on, because there's more to come.
I like this. Thomas is paid $8 million. He can bitch all he wants, but this is a business and he plays because he's paid.
I don't understand the comment.
Well, I mean, it's Captain Obvious. I understand these are all millionaires and they play in the National Hockey League. Why don't you? How do you think this market would react if the Canadiens did what St. Louis did to Robert Thomas, but instead we do that with Nick Suzuki? How do you think that would play out? How do you think that would play out in this market? That's not, in my opinion, what well-run organizations do.
No.
I think we all understand the business side of professional sports, regardless of what sport we're talking about. It is a business. John Carlson, you saw how emotional Tom Wilson was and Alexander Ovechkin was when they were asked to comment on one of the greatest Washington Capital players of his time leaves to go to the Anaheim Ducks when he was asleep. I mean, that's all you need to know. Everybody knows this is a business. This is a business.
Absolutely. And I mean, listen, ladies and gentlemen, the Canadiens still have not informed us as to when Kent Hughes is speaking.
So that's
we've sent asks. It's 3:15. Yeah. It's a little fishy, and then the fact that Calgary acquires Strome, a little fishy. I wonder.
I mean, I want to be optimistic that something's coming. What do you got?
LA has acquired Scott Laughton from Toronto.
Okay, so the Maple Leafs, I mean, they wanted to be in full sell mode, and they are in full sell mode, brother.
It's interesting to me that you're going to start seeing these. Toronto. I wrote that Toronto was going to be in sell mode. Obviously, one of those trades is interesting.
Oh wow!
Also, a little
Jonathan Drouin gone too, huh?
Yeah, Jonathan Drouin traded in the Braden Shen trade for monetary purposes.
Wow.
That man just keeps bouncing around.
He was doing nothing for the New York Islanders. He got off to a good start.
He started off really well, but
exactly.
Again, like that's what happens when you have a partial no trade clauses. You leave yourself the opportunity to being traded.
Yeah.
But I do find it intriguing that the Canadiens still 15 minutes after the deadline. This is rare. Last year, we knew at 3:30 that Kent Hughes was speaking.
Thanks for being with us, everybody. Yeah, thank you.
You guys are, by the way, 1,400 has to be the record in terms of the amount of people we've had live. You guys are absolutely awesome.
Hold on. Get your drum roll out. We're getting close to 1,500 here. Live on the Starr and D'Amico show.
If we get close to 1,500.
There's Marco. I'm Shaun. Thanks for being with us. Make sure to smash and subscribe to the channel. We've got daily Habs content for the rest of the season. A quick take on the Toronto Maple Leafs and the maneuvers they've done here. Have they as Brad Treliving done a good job in terms of looking at the talent and the moves that he's made and attempting to accumulate a good amount of quality picks, Marco?
I definitely agree that they were able to get good assets for some of their players. Like the Nick Roy trade, getting a first and a conditional pick for Nick Roy is great.
Yeah.
Giving Mitch Marner a no movement clause in the final year of his contract and having to coerce the Vegas Golden Knights into trading you, Nick Roy, to avoid collusion allegations or tampering allegations, less. But they at least made good of a good situation. So I think getting a first-round pick is great. Very interested to see what the return is on Scott Laughton once we do get there. But Bobby McMahon for a second and a fourth, I found a little interesting. I thought that there was a better market for him considering how cheap he was, but I think they waited too long to make a decision on selling, and that came back to bite them in the butt.
Love the support we're seeing in the live chat today. You guys are keeping
Not
it
an
real.
Insider.
Thanks for being with us. We are now 17 minutes past the deadline, Marco. Still no time yet on when general manager Ken Hughes is going to speak. Is the expectation, as we know, the Cavalry is with the team in Southern California,
or else I'd be there. Or
Yeah.
else I'd be at the Bell Center covering this right now. But yes, absolutely, they are in San Jose.
Is the expectation for Hughes to speak today?
Yes. I was told that Hughes was going to speak today.
Yeah.
So we're waiting on that. Thank you. I appreciate you all. 1,500. Jesus Christ, you guys are awesome.
Let's go.
but,
Smash that like button. Thank you so much, everybody.
Like I said, sometimes things just don't come to fruition. And, again, it's we haven't been told that the Canadiens are done yet, which is saying something because I've worked trade deadlines where the Canadiens are like, they're done.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be interesting to see how things go down. But this is the beauty of the trade deadline being at 3 and then trades continuing to trickle in after the fact. It's always kind of funny. But again, what I'm being told is the Canadiens have a lot of internal belief in their team, right?
Yeah.
And so why didn't the Habs trade a first and a third for Justin Falk? Wouldn't have been a great update. He's not a rental. He signed for 2 years for another year after this, and he's 34 years old, so he'll be 35. Do you I like Justin Falk, but why are you, as a Canadian team, giving up a first and a third for a player who's not going to be around longer than the next 18 months?
Exactly.
Now, think about it. A first and a third is basically half the value the Canadians gave, because I would equate the value of Emil Heineman to a third-round pick for Noah Dobson. Wouldn't you rather spend that kind of asset on a top 4 right shot defenseman in the summer
100%.
than have to pick up the scraps right now?
Yeah.
Well, that's where the Canadiens are at. That's exactly what I was told. Is they were looking more at the periphery players at right D and less in terms of the top end. But we shall see. We shall see in terms of what comes down, because to me, unless something falls through, it would be extremely fishy that the Canadiens have not yet informed us that
Correct.
they are ready to speak.
I mean, we're more or less 20 minutes past the deadline here. If you're just catching up, the Montreal Canadiens have not made a move. We're here live in the aftermath of Friday's NHL Trade Deadline here, reacting to the moves. The Toronto Maple Leafs are in full sell-off mode as more details around trades continue to trickle in. Former Montreal Canadian Jonathan Drouin, part of the Braden Shen deal, as he goes to the New York Islanders. Jonathan Drouin goes the other way there. It also appears Pierre LeBrun reporting that AJ Greer is looking like he's going to re-up with the Florida Panthers. There was another name you heard from Habs Nation that they were hoping maybe the Canadiens would make a run at. You saw Brendan Duhaime's name kind of circulating around that in terms of the wants and needs of the Montreal Canadiens. Can you elaborate on something I saw earlier today, that the speculation around the Canadiens looking at a forward player that no one was really talking about? Did you catch that? Anything
he said this is what I hate. He said he had a feeling that if the Canadiens were going to, you have to be so careful what you say.
Okay.
So careful what you say when it comes to that. And, I agree that Kent Hughes is always a left field kind of guy. Like, before I reported on Noah Dobson last year, did anybody think that they were going to go that route? Not, I sure as hell didn't. When it landed on my lap, I was like, damn, okay. Like, didn't see this coming.
Yeah.
So it's those kinds of situations. So I'll be interested to see where it all goes. But yeah, I'm not convinced that I still think there's one big Q. RDS is saying that that Ken Hughes should be speaking between 325 and 330, but the Canadiens communications team has not told us anything yet. So
okay,
we'll see what comes from that. But I don't envy the press conference that they're about to undertake.
So if I'm, you want to react to this here?
Why would the Canadiens have done that?
Yeah.
In what way is it their style to go and get an enforcer on the fourth line? I don't get it. I don't like, if he was a healthy scratch on a consistent basis for the Philadelphia Flyers, like, don't you want more than that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Why are the Tabs pursuing Kadri, not Trocheck? Because you don't want to know what the price point was on Trocheck.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's also a no trade clause to deal with.
And there's
also the relationship between the Canadiens and whatnot. Though I do believe I am being told that there is no deal to be had with Calgary at this moment, and it looks like they are done.
Yeah, it looks like. I mean, I think we can start to get the takeaway there, and I mean, the initial reaction to the Canadiens, if in fact it looks like all signs point to the Canadiens were observers and non-participants, is I'm not surprised, Marco. I'm really not. I was texting with a buddy after I got off the air today. He asked me, what do you think they're going to do? I mean, I'll show you the text. I said, I don't think they're going to do anything. I really don't. The asking price, the fact that they seem exceptionally reluctant to move a Michael Hage, to move a David Reinbacher. I think it was Pierre Maguire who made this point. I thought it was a money point. You don't move up in the draft to draft Michael Hage and then trade him without having a look at him in the first round when they decided to do that.
I do agree with that. And I think I'll add one thing. You look at all these minor trades to be made left and right.
Yeah.
At forward, I think just getting Michael Hage is a bigger deal. In my 2 cents, is a bigger deal than trying to make a left shot trade for a middle six forward. To me, I think giving Michael Hage a chance also kind of makes sense. But the fact that they didn't trade Patrick Laine is a huge wow for me.
It is, and let's circle back to I forget who put the question up. What happens now? I mean,
well, now you don't have to do anything. There is no roster limit anymore, so you can just activate him and keep him around.
But it doesn't turn into a PA issue at all. I mean, he's practicing. He's practicing. He's healthy, but he's still on
Yeah.
IR.
He is still an IR, but you can now bring him back. You can now activate him, right? Like the issue was leading up to today. And that's kind of the biggest issue for me is leading up to today. If you activated him, you had to waive somebody else. Well, now they don't have to do that.
No.
They could just keep him and then he's there. Do I think that they should have done something? Absolutely. Absolutely. I think they should have done something in regards to him, but the market simply just was not there. It was not there. And I think when it comes to this, thank you so much, Jason.
Hey, McLean. We love McLean's. It's the real deal on Peel Street. Got to check him out before and after the game.
Knew that was coming. I think when it comes to the rest of this, and I know we got a lot of angry Habs fans here. Some of the best deals you make are the deals you don't make.
Well, I mean,
I would rather have the Canadiens hold on to their first round pick or a couple of extra assets and really make noise in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
It's the way I see it. And when it comes to worst trade day ever, you weren't here last year, man. At least there were big names that moved last year.
It's expectations, right? It's ruled by expectations. That's my riff on it, right?
I was pretty straightforward at the very beginning that this wasn't going to be a trade deadline or to remember. At least the last day was not going to be a trade deadline to remember. But I still stand on this. If it wasn't for the Calgary Flames ownership not wanting retention on Nazem Kadri, we would have a far bigger discussion. We would be having a far bigger discussion right now. But then again, if that were the case, he'd probably be a Colorado Avalanche as we speak.
I want to wrap up on Patrik Laine for a second. I mean, what does the fact that the Canadiens were very open? I would guess that a lot of people read into the fact that the Canadiens were more than willing to do what Craig Conroy and the Flames were not willing to do, and that's retain salary. What does the market say about the fact that Patrik Laine hasn't been moved, Marco? What does it say about how you think teams look at him as an asset?
He hasn't played all year. How do you want to assess him as an asset when you haven't seen him play? I think that was the biggest thing. If he would have gotten into games, we would have a different conversation right now, but he hasn't. So you can't really know. And he's a player over the last 3 years that's just been completely devoided of all value. So, the Canadiens were given a second round pick at a time where the cap was still flat to take his salary on. That tells you everything you need to know. So unfortunately, it is what it is when it comes to Patrik Laine. I guess they're going to keep him around. We're still seeing trades come down, but I guess they're going to keep him around as an extra forward in case of injury or whatnot, or around the team. But I'm kind of shocked that even for future considerations at 50%, that wasn't something that happened.
Yeah. David Kampf to Washington for a 6th round pick, to your point, just about trade still kind of trickling in here 28 minutes after the deadline had expired.
Let me just pull this up.
Yeah.
Marc-Antoine saying that I said that Laine would be traded right after the trade freeze. I said the Canadiens would like to trade Patrik Laine right after the trade freeze. Just like Pierre LeBrun didn't say that the Canadiens were looking for a non-rumored top 6 player. He said his feeling was that player would be traded. Yeah. Words are often construed because my reports are taken from other websites and they don't use the same words that I do.
Well, what did I see today that I think a media outlet credited you with Sam Montembeault being on the block? And I think you were quick to correct them.
Well, I wasn't the first one to point it out, basically, is what I pointed out. David Pagnotta at the 4th period was the first one to bring it up. I don't think it shocked anybody to know that the Canadiens have had Samuel Montembeault's name out there. The question simply is, was there a market? And I don't think there was.
Reaction to the Buffalo Sabres and what they were ultimately able to do. A lot of people saying the moves that they ended up getting after not landing Robert Thomas, not getting Colton Parayko, landing more pillars on defense with Sam Carrick, so on and so forth. And the Buffalo Sabres are on a 5-game winning streak. I mean, they more or less manhandled the Pittsburgh Penguins in what was that, a 5-1 win on Thursday night. What about Buffalo's approach here to what they did to their roster now that the deadline has come and gone?
Yeah, I mean, they're going to be an interesting team to watch. I think I just simply think that they're in a situation right now where they have no choice. They have no choice but to they have no choice but to turn it around and make the most of what they have. Going to get a guy like Shen, going to get a guy like Stanley. You could see where they're going. I don't think Buffalo needs to change a damn thing. They're a wagon as is. I said it yesterday. The only thing that could seemingly stop the Buffalo Sabres right now is a no trade clause.
That's a good one. I like it.
I'm allowed dad jokes. I am allowed.
Yes, you are. You passed the test.
I have earned it. Jokes. I'm the one dodging diapers and poop. So
yeah,
I get the dad jokes. But yeah, that's basically what we have for you today. Again, I apologize that as of right now, there isn't much to be able to add in terms of reporting. We're not getting any kind of information from the Montreal Canadiens as we speak. So we'll keep you updated if there is anything on our social accounts and moving forward. But if not, it's been an absolute pleasure to spend the last hour with you. 1,500 strong. Absolutely love it. And I want to just thank you so much for being a part of it. And for those that don't, please do follow us at Starr and D'Amico. We'll definitely have more content for you throughout the season.
It's Habs game day there in Anaheim tonight. 9:00, Sam Montembeault gets a start. And then to LA as they wrap up. It's going to be a tough out tonight against this Anaheim Duck team. They've been looking pretty good. So stay tuned for that. I hope you enjoy the game tonight. Marco, good stuff as always. Lots of fun to do this today. And we'll be back with you, of course, live as we get set to recap the Montreal Canadiens. And yeah, sorry, Hab fans. It would have been great to have a trade kind of break as we were live on the air, but Patrick Laine is still a Canadian. Nazem Kadri isn't a Canadian. Vincent Trocheck isn't. And they still have their goaltender. So ride or die with this squad. And thanks for riding and dying with Starr and D'Amico. We love you. Enjoy your Friday. Enjoy your families. And we'll see you soon. Thanks, Marco.
Have a good day, everybody.